The Dreamcast is one of my all-time favorite consoles, and during its unfortunately short lifespan, it managed to release some really amazing titles, including near-perfect arcade ports for many classic fighters, becoming a favorite among enthusiasts. Now, mods for the console are a bit limited, but it looks like the folks over at TR Fight Stick have a couple really cool products that bring some premium aesthetics and innovative features to the system. So, let's take a look. Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Tito and welcome to another episode of Retro Renew. Today I have a couple really neat products to show you for the Sega Dreamcast, one of which is an all-metal case mod for the console that just looks beautiful, and the other an arcade fight stick with some pretty awesome Dreamcast-centric features. Both of these come from a company that you may be familiar with called TR Fight Stick, which is based out of Turkey. Now, longtime viewers of the channel know that I absolutely love the Dreamcast, as well as metal shell swaps for consoles, as I've done quite a few. So when the folks over at TR offered to send these over for review, I of course said yes. The metal shell is called the Dreamcase, and besides its unique appearance and hefty weight, it also has a few extras like openings for an HDMI port if you have the DC digital installed, and external SD card access for an optical drive emulator. Plus, that illuminated Dreamcast logo looks amazing. And here we have the Octopus Fight Stick, which is the absolute perfect companion for fans of the Dreamcast and its library of fighting games. Now, I'm no stranger when it comes to fight sticks, as I've actually built quite a few of my own, including this massive 2-player Neo Geo style fight stick made from black walnut. Now, the funny thing is that while I have built my own arcade sticks from scratch, I've never actually bought a pre-made one. Now, what makes the Octopus Fight Stick so unique is the built-in VMU with OLED display, which complements the Dreamcast extremely well. And on top of its premium build and parts, it actually has quite a few neat features, including the ability to back up your VMU save files to an SD card, and work with over 8 other consoles besides the Dreamcast. But we'll be getting into that in just a moment. Alright, so in this video, I'm going to show you what comes with the DreamCase kit, then I'll demonstrate how to put it all together. I'll go over all the major features of both the Dreamcase and the Octopus Fight Stick, review the pros and cons of both, and of course provide you with my overall thoughts. Okay, so since the Dreamcase comes in some pretty nice packaging, I figured I'd do a real quick unboxing. So the first thing we have out of the box is the metal shell, which we'll set aside for now. And the only other things included are these 2 boxes of parts, and let me tell you, there are a ton of parts. Up close, you can see that the metal casing has a really nice finish, and the blue plastic controller port panel, as well as the rear panel, look really nice as well. Inside each box, we get all the various parts to put this thing together, which includes a power board, as well as an SD card extension kit for external SD card access for the GDEMU. And speaking of which, you will also need to purchase a GDEMU with this mod, because it obviously does not accommodate the original GD-ROM drive, since the enclosure doesn't open. So definitely make sure you pick one of these up, as it's not included with the kit. Also, while completely optional, I strongly recommend that you pick up a 40mm Noctua fan. The kit is compatible with the original Dreamcast fan, but as you know, they are notorious for being pretty noisy. So picking one of these up is certainly recommended. And lastly, since the console utilizes its own custom power board, you will also need to purchase your own universal 12-volt power supply. I strongly suggest that you get a quality one from a reputable vendor, like this Triad power supply that I picked up from DigiKey. I'll leave a link to this specific model down below in the comments. Alright, so that's everything you need to put together the Dreamcase. But before we get into the installation portion of the video, let's talk about the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay. If you have an idea for a new mod or want to assemble an open source project, PCBWay provides you with the tools to make them a reality. From 3D printing services in an array of materials, all the way to other services like CNC machining, injection molding, and of course PCB and flex ribbon fabrication. So when it comes to taking your retro gaming mods to the next level, PCBWay is the place to make that happen. Check out the link in the description for PCBWay to get $5 off your first order, And again, a huge thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. Alright, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and put together the DreamCase. Okay, so as usual guys, we need to basically fully disassemble the Dreamcast down to the motherboard. Okay, so upon removing the top RF shielding, I immediately noticed that this particular Dreamcast has a very unique cooling system that I've never seen before, which I later found out is an early revision VA0 model, which is unfortunately not compatible with this case mod due to the integrated heatsink. This doesn't change the installation process at all, and I do later swap in my DC HDMI modded console, which doesn't have this issue. Anyway, once the motherboard is out, I went ahead and removed the fan, which is connected to the heatsink. Again, this is only unique to this model Dreamcast. Most fans are mounted directly to the Dreamcast shell. Next, grab the top and bottom RF shielding and place it over the motherboard, as this is how we'll need to mount it inside of our new case. But for now, let's set it aside. Go ahead and place a microfiber cloth on your workstation to protect the finish of the Dreamcase shell while we work on it. We need to take it apart so we can isolate the base plate. You'll need to slightly loosen these black screws securing the front and rear plastic panels, which will allow us to slide the top shell off. And once the top shell is off, we can then completely remove the front and rear panel. Now before we proceed with assembly, I strongly recommend organizing all the screws and standoffs by their size. This will help us during the assembly process and just make things simpler overall. I basically measure each screw and categorize them here. So on these 4 points on the base plate, we're going to install the long standoffs using the 5mm screws. Then we're going to install the short standoffs on these points here. However, if you are installing a Dreamcast with a DC digital, you don't need to put a standoff in this location. And this is what it should look like when completed. Next, we'll install the isolation feet. All parts come in their own bag, and all you need to do is feed the screw through the center of the foot and secure it with the included nut. And this is how it should look fully installed. Next, we can go ahead and drop in the motherboard onto the standoffs as shown. The 4 longer standoffs align with the front of the motherboard here. Next, secure the motherboard down with the 8mm screws. Now before I installed the controller board, I went ahead and replaced the resistor, battery, and fuse, as these are common failure points on the Dreamcast. And this is what it should look like all refreshed, complete with an all new battery. Then go ahead and drop it onto the motherboard and secure it with the included 10mm screws. Now we're going to go ahead and prep the rear plastic panel by first installing the reset button for the GDEMU. It's simply secured with a lock washer and ring nut. Next, pop in the power switch, which is just press fitted into place. Then go ahead and reattach the rear panel to the bottom plate, ensuring to not fully tighten the screws. You want them to be just a bit loose. And then do the same with the front plastic panel, again keeping the screws loosely secured. Next, we're going to prep the GDEMU by soldering the 2 included wires to the reset button. These will connect to our external reset switch. Then go ahead and drop in the GDEMU. And then connect the wires to the external reset switch. Now grab the power board and install the included standoff. And then install it into the motherboard as shown. Now grab the power switch cable and then connect it to the power board, followed by the connector for mains power. And then connect the other end of the power switch cable to the power switch itself. Now here I actually had to solder the ground cable to our mains connector as shown because it appears to have become dislodged, and I'm assuming that happened during shipping. Anyway, it's an easy fix. Next, we need to install the SD card extension as shown. This is what will allow us to access the GDEMU SD card externally. Now grab the included fan accessories. Since I'm going to be installing a Nacho fan, we don't need the metal adapter bracket, which is meant for the original fan. One thing to take note of is the fan's rotational direction and wind direction, as noted by these arrows. We want the wind direction to be pointed towards the outside of the shell. So insert the long mounting screws into the outer casing, then drop in the isolating gasket, followed by the fan. Again, ensuring that the wind direction is pointing out of the shell. And be sure to connect the fan adapter cable, which is not included with this kit. I picked mine up from Laser Bear Industries, which I have linked down below. The kit does come with an adapter cable that you need to solder, so I opted to use the Laser Bear one instead. Now the last thing we need to do is extract the modem PCB. Not that we'll be using it, but it's nice that the DreamCase accommodates this for the sake of completeness. Now, all that's left to do is connect the fan to the motherboard, and the cable for the illuminated logo to the power board. And then, button it all up. And there you have it, folks. The DreamCase mod fully installed. I have to say that the DreamCase is a fantastic shell replacement that really adds a premium feel to the console. It's fairly easy to put together, and I think it really caps off my HDMI modded system. It looks awesome. Alright, so with the Dreamcast all hooked up, let's take a look at the features that both the DreamCase and Octopus Fight Stick have to offer. Let's first start with the DreamCase, which as far as features go, is pretty much self-explanatory. We of course have the metal construction, which boasts a beautiful metallic finish. The shell adds quite a bit of heft and makes the Dreamcast look and feel like a premium piece of AV equipment, especially with details like these isolation feet. Another great feature is the enclosure's ability to use a Nacho fan, which drastically lowers overall fan noise, especially when you compare it to a stock Dreamcast fan, which as we all know is just super loud. Now moving around back to the rear panel, TR incorporated openings for those that have a DC digital kit installed, as well as an opening for external access to the SD card for the GDEMU. They also conveniently place the GDEMU reset button here to assist with disk image swapping when needed. And really, the last feature is also the most in your face, and it's this lovely illuminated Dreamcast logo on top. It's actually kind of crazy how much attention to detail was put in this thing. The metal was precision cut to fit the plastic molded LED diffuser, and the results just look great. Although I do wish it was in the iconic Dreamcast orange instead of blue. But hey, we can't have everything. Alright, so that's the Dreamcase, but now let's take a look at some of the major features of the Octopus Fight Stick. Now I have to caveat that the unit I was sent is a prototype and not the final production version. We can see that the casing is actually 3D printed on mine, but the final version will have injection molded plastic and have a more refined finish. But by and large, this is what it will eventually look like. So overall, this thing feels really solid and has a very nice weight to it. It uses quality Sanwa arcade parts, which is what I use for all my custom arcade builds. Sanwa makes my favorite arcade parts, so I'm glad that the folks over at TR went with these. My unit here is in their white colorway, but it will also be available in black. Now the bottom plate, which feels like steel, comes off very easily for complete access to the internals. And the designs on top are completely swappable. All the various cables for different consoles connect to this RJ45 connector, and thanks to their recent partnership with Brooks, the Octopus will be compatible with the PS5 in addition to all their other supported consoles. The unit that I was sent only came with the Dreamcast cable, but there will be other cables available so they can plug it into various other consoles. And here on the top right you have 3 buttons which allow you to customize the arcade stick itself. You have SOCD to make the arcade stick compliant for tournaments, LSPD to change the configuration of the analog stick between digital and analog, and you have a turbo button. So overall, this is a well-designed arcade stick, but what really makes it stick out to me is the internal VMU. So let's talk about that. Seeing the screen on this makes me wish that the original VMU was also backlit. The bright and vibrant OLED display shows you everything that a normal VMU would display in addition to other arcade stick metrics. All your VMU save files are stored on the micro SD card, which on my unit is only accessible internally. However, I did speak with Eunice, who is the founder of TR, and he told me that the final production units will have external accessibility to the SD card, which will be far more convenient. The Octopus allows you to have up to 10 virtual VMUs, which you can cycle through by holding Start and these 2 buttons here, and then hitting left or right. Now, one of the features that seems to be overlooked is the fact that you can even back up your original VMU save files. You can copy the files from your original VMU over to the Octopus and then remove the SD card so you can pop it into your computer and back it up. It's really neat that the Octopus can also be used to preserve your original VMU save files. That was the first thing that I did when I got this. Now, I did just touch upon the main features of the Octopus, so definitely be sure to check out the Indiegogo campaign as it has a ton more up-to-date information. Alright, now let's go ahead and take a look at the pros and cons. Starting again with the Dreamcase, the biggest pro in my opinion is honestly the way it looks. While I love the design of the original Dreamcast a lot, this has a more minimalist look to it, which I really dig. Additionally, this is a pretty easy mod to do. For the most part, you just need a screwdriver, but there is a bit of soldering needed if you want to enable the external disk swap button around back for the GDEMU. And the last pro is its versatility in terms of accommodating some popular mods such as the DC Digital and an upgraded Noctua fan. Now, taking a look at the Octopus Fight Stick, to me the absolute biggest pro is its internal VMU capabilities. If you want an arcade stick for the Sega Dreamcast, this is the one to get for sure. The VMU functionality alone makes it a no-brainer. Additionally, the overall build and high-quality Sanwa components make it a very nice all-around fight stick with compatibility with a bunch of consoles. Anyway, those are the pros, but now let's get into the cons. The first con for the Dreamcase I totally stumbled upon by accident. As you saw during the installation portion of the video, the Dreamcast I initially wanted to use for the mod was an early VA0 model, which has integrated heat pipes, a completely different cooling system than the majority of systems out there, at least here in the US. Unfortunately, due to how the fan is mounted and the location of the incorporated heatsink, the Noctua fan does not appear to fit. This is only an issue for those that have this particular uncommon revision of the console, so definitely make sure to check what revision you have before you make the purchase. And the last con is price. The Dreamcase costs $200, which honestly even I would have a hard time handing over. It is definitely a premium product and is extremely niche, but for those die-hard Dreamcast fans, you can probably justify the cost. Now, I was able to convince the folks over at TR to hook you up with a discount, especially since this thing is so expensive. Use the coupon code TITO10 at checkout on the TR website and save 10% on your purchase, which will hopefully help lighten the blow just a bit. Now, I really couldn't find any cons when it comes to the Octopus. It genuinely feels like a quality fight stick, and with its integrated VMU, it's arguably the best arcade stick for the Dreamcast. And the fact that it supports a whole slew of consoles is just icing on the cake. Just one thing to keep in mind is that as a crowdfunding campaign, there is always a risk of non-fulfillment. Definitely do your own research, and be sure to check out their Indiegogo page, which I have linked down below. Now, one last note, as you may or may not know, Turkey, the country, recently suffered a pretty devastating earthquake about a year ago, which they are still recovering from today. So Yunus, the owner of TR, and his team are dedicating 10% of each sale on their Indiegogo campaign to directly support the country's recovery effort. So not only will you be getting a pretty sweet arcade stick, but you'll also be supporting a great cause too. Well, there you have it. 2 really cool products for the Sega Dreamcast from the folks over at TR Fight Stick. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I really think you'll like this one here, so check it out. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next Thursday.